Right, so what we've got today is a presentation. We're going to talk to you guys about using enterprise-class workloads on Hitachi subsystems. I'm the Global Solution Product Manager for VMware. I'm a technical guy, so if there's any technical questions, I should be able to help you. Plus, I'm also going to talk to you about some best practices as we go through the process. The other guest speaker we have today is a customer of ours, Neil, who works for a company who has gone through a very major change in his infrastructure and has done quite an incredible job consolidating and moving stuff around and actually doing something like most people kind of admire, and that's to be able to clean up stuff and make it all work properly. So it's kind of a pretty cool story. So we'll get Neil up here to talk to you guys about that. And then after Neil presents, I'm then going to talk to you a little bit about the technologies that helped him and his team migrate into that type of environment. So on further ado, I'll invite Neil up here and we'll go through that presentation. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So if you've ever watched Crocodile Dundee, you know where this gentleman's from, okay? So essentially, I'm just going to share our story at Apollo Group. And I am technically evolving away from being technical. I was sharing with some of the guys that although I look young, I'm looking towards retirement. So I'm trying to get out of the technical world and do something that's less stressful, less phone calls late at night, and just enjoy a good time together. So Apollo Group, as some of you may know or don't know, was founded in 1973, and it was a vision of John Sperling, who at that time was a professor and head of department in a university here in this state. And his view was, how do we provide educational opportunities for those who aren't 18 and still depending on their mommies and daddies for their income, and provide education for those who are on the full-time workforce, or for those who are not accustomed to the normal standards for getting into colleges, such as getting a 1,600 on your SAT scores. How many of you did that? And having a 3.8 GPA score. And so that was his vision. He tried to get the provost as well as the board at the university he worked at to buy into his idea. They did not want to hear anything of it. And so that gave birth to his own vision, which is now known to you all as University of Phoenix. So Apollo Group is the owner of University of Phoenix. That's our major university, but we also have several other universities and 2 high schools, of which that same vision works very well today. And one of the things that I've learned by being at University of Phoenix is to change my own personal bias. And I come from a background of bricks and mortar educators. My mom is a retired university professor at Columbia University in New York. And when I told her, and she's all of 88 years old today, that I was coming to work at University of Phoenix, she had followed their trail over the years with a lot of cynicism. I've now been able to tell her, although at her age she's not all mentally alert as she used to be, of the kind of good work they're doing. And one of the things that we've learned over the years at the University of Phoenix, and now me personally, is how much it touches and changes lives of people. And I have a personal experience of that with a neighbor of mine who's a young lady, young mother, and she's puts her children to bed, and then she's able to go to school. And as that demand hits University of Phoenix, we've had to change our world in IT. in that we had to create an environment that provides an educational platform for our students at any time they need it. So it's no longer going to school from 8 in the morning to 7 at night, but it's a student getting online to go to school at 10 o'clock at night after she's put her kids to bed, and now she's ready to go to school. We also had a transition from a company that was entrepreneurial in its approach and not very strategic-minded, not looking at roadmaps, but just doing what was necessary to provide that educational platform for the student. And so what we had happen within Apollo Group was what we call reinvention of education. And we, as IT, because primarily we're 3/4 online university, and so it depends very heavily on IT, had to do some real rethinking of how we provide an IT infrastructure that supports education for our students. Within our IT organization, there are several service towers, and I'm not going to read through all my PowerPoint presentation because we'll be here all the rest of the afternoon. We currently break it up into 4 major sections. We have what we call IT operations, which is production services, which is break-fix, which is what we call an ITOC, ISOC, all of the operations groups that do break-fix, both for the network side, server side, infrastructure side. We have a group called hosting, which is a team that I happen to lead, which is responsible for design and engineering for all of the technology platforms except for network. So that's all server technologies, database technologies, and using computer technologies, web technologies, and middleware, along with backup and storage. And then we have network services. We also have an application development team, and they're responsible for all of the back office things like HR, apps, and financials. And then we have our typical service desk and desktop support teams, which is campus and call center support. And then all of our normal back-end IT stuff, which is architecture and project management and security and all those types of things. And of course, the Office of the CIO. So I want to share a little bit about how we went through our VMware evolution. Apollo Group, and this is long before I got there, began using VMware back in 2005, but again, not anything else other than just a tool to do what they needed to do in terms of deploying infrastructure quickly for whatever need they had at the time. There wasn't really a strategy in place. There wasn't a thinking of how do we use this technology that this company called VMware had to better manage our infrastructure. It was just, let's try it out. And so we began back in 2005, and as you see from our little PowerPoint presentation there, we've evolved over the years to build a strategy. And what we've done now is we've categorized our entire infrastructure into 3 major segments. We have what we call the contained segment, and that's across all of the technologies under me, which means this particular technology generation we're going to decom. It's not part of our present strategy. We're not going to use it anymore. We're not going to grow in that space. And then we have another group which we call core, which is generally my direction is that needs to be N-1. And then we have what we call our evolving or emerging technologies, which is the new generation or the next generation to come. So as you notice, from generation 0 through generation 2, essentially we've put it in the contained category, and we've done a lot of work in decomming that and moving it into the new versions and generations of VMware. Just some graphics to talk through our environment. We've gone from we brought in some folks who actually have a more strategic view, and currently we have about 221 ESX hosts, about 1,700 VMs, and you can see what the breakdown is. And we continue to grow more and more in our VMware space, or our virtual space as I usually call it. Our plan is to, and this is what I've given the direction to my director of server technology, is that we'd like to have between 60 to 75% of our server space virtualized. And that is our goal. We're getting there, and it takes a lot of work. Not only work from the perspective of our business community who don't like outages. How many of us know that experience? And then it takes work from our development folks who think they know hardware better than you do, because they want to have their own box to run their own application on. And so that takes a lot of change of culture more than change of technology. It's change of the way of thinking. It's a change in the way in which you approach how you do your business. And but we've had some challenges along the way, but given the fact that most of my team has done this before in previous lives, we've had some very good success. And we've learned that it's not pushing the technology, but it's helping people see the value and helping to change the way they think about how they do things. So this is another picture of what we've done so far, how much we've retired, and how much we've decommissioned, and how much space we've reclaimed as a result of that. And so we have done a relatively good job. Again, I didn't do the work, and some of my guys have done the work are here this week, and the numbers speak for themselves. The other area that we've done a lot of work in is on the storage side. At one point in time, we had every flavor of storage technology you can think of that you can buy within our organization. Again, because we're very entrepreneurial. So if I wanted to get something done, I went out and bought what I liked. And if the next guy wanted to get something done, went out and bought what he liked. And so we had every flavor. And again, there was not a strategy in place. And so we did a lot of work around trying to identify what was the best storage solution, both from a SAN perspective as well as a NAS perspective. And having done a lot of research and a lot of work, we decided to partner with Hitachi. And they've been not only our partner from a technology perspective, but also they've joined us from a perspective, from the education perspective as well. And then we began a process last year where we began to migrate off of various types of hardware into our second-tier Hitachi frames. And so as you see, in 2009, we had 255 VMs migrated from Hitachi, 28 terabytes of storage migrated, 26 VMs migrated from JBOD, and we continued that process all the way through this year for both our development, QA, and production environments. So it says, in essence, in summary, we had 630 VMs, approximately 50 terabytes of storage migrated to USPVs. And essentially some of this is internal language that you might not understand, but we've done a lot of work, again, in standardizing. We've put a process in place that allowed us to buy hardware ahead of time and then plan a migration. Again, partnering with our business, our development folks, and migrating from some of the disparate heterogeneous hardware that we had in our storage space onto the new hardware platform that we had selected, which is Hitachi, for my Hitachi friends. Some of the things that we plan to do in terms of going forward and have completed already is vSphere lab testing. And one of the things that we are looking to do is do rapid provisioning. I would say a year ago at this time, to deploy a VM, it used to take us probably close to 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know why. I'm not going to try to explain it. And then to deploy a single server would take probably twice or 3 times as long as that. And so one of the things that we had looked to do, and one of the things that I asked the team to do, is look at what I call rapid deployment. And one of the tools that has helped us get there has been vSphere. And we started testing it in the early part of this year. We've completed the testing, and we are on a long way of being able to now provision infrastructure in a much more efficient and timely way. My goal for my team this year is for VM Slice is to do it within 7 minutes. And that is by using technology that allows for self-provisioning. And we've actually done some work in the lab, and we're getting very close to that. Other improvements we're looking at in terms of using both our storage as well as VMware technology is doing some work within the end-user computing space, continuing to adopt VMware not only for the standard server, but for other kinds of technology that are used within the Apollo group. Lastly, but not least, and this is something that we're doing, and that's data center consolidation. We currently have 7 data centers, and we intend to consolidate down to 2. And one of the major tools which we're going to use to do that will be a combination of virtual computing or virtualization on the server side and using our storage as a backend for that as well. And so I told everyone I was going to try to be as brief as possible, so I think I've met my time. And so that's where we are today. I can tell you that it's not easy. So it all sounds easy when you get up and talk about it. What I will say is that it takes, the technology works. So it's not about technology. Certainly you must look at testing and making sure that technology works within your environment. But what we found the big challenges is changing the way in which you think, being able to partner properly with your vendors, with your customers, with my friends in development. I call them my friends because sometimes you don't behave that way. And being able to demonstrate the value that it brings to the business and to your customers. And our customers are the students. And with virtual computing, both on the server side, on the end-user computing side, and a solid back end, we believe it could provide the best kind of educational platform for our students at University of Phoenix, as well as other universities that we intend to acquire as time goes on. Thank you very much. I'm not sure that, we have a couple more minutes?
I'm not sure. So how long have we got to halfway?
Who's my timekeeper?
Yeah.
So I just want to mention some lessons learned. So some of the lessons that we've learned through trial and error is that you need to really think about having the right kind of storage, and we've done a lot of work in that space to determine which is the right kind of storage. And some of the things we've learned is throwing more disk at a storage performance problem is just a waste, and we've learned how to get around doing some of those kind of things by how we use wide striping. Some other things we've learned, just to mention, is that we need to find a balance between optimal density, how many VMs you're going to use per host, and good VM performance may require running less VMs per host and data stores, as well as looking at some of your costs behind that as well. And I'm assuming somebody will make this deck available, so I don't want to go through all of the details of that. Some of the benefits that we've gained in standardizing is that we can now use a tiered approach, and we also are able to optimize our storage pools. And then in terms of what we call data protection, is we're able to back up and provision VMs more efficiently and more effectively. I have to say, which has been a very good surprise, because I came from a place before I joined Apollo which used another storage vendor, and I teased my friends at Hitachi, and we're very glad to say this, and they want us to say this. We've had 0 outages, and I've had all the different storage vendors you can think of, but I think one of the things that we have to say is that we've had success in that area, which makes buying into the entire solution one that our customers, and when I say our customers, our students and our faculty really can buy into. So all the Q&A I'm asked to hold to the end until Mike's here is finished, so thank you for your time.
Thank you, Neil. Well, that was a very nice presentation. Thanks, Neil. One of the things that I've learned, I was also a customer of HDS before I moved into this role. One of the things I've learned is that when you have to choose a storage vendor, one of the things, if you have a large environment and you go down a server virtualization path, one of the critical factors is availability, right? And because you want this stuff to stay up. And you start consolidating workloads and start consolidating equipment, you're moving physical to virtual, and you're starting to put everything into all your eggs are going into one basket. So you want to make sure this thing's up and running. So what I'm going to do is I'm really going to talk to you about some of the things that I've experienced, what Neil's experienced, and then the technologies that we have inside of Hitachi Data Systems that help you basically minimize your risk, but maximize your opportunity, but also give you choice, right? So it's not all about here's one technology fits everything. It's more like the combination of the maturities of the technology with the combination of the storage and the hypervisor together. When they play together and work together and integrate together, then they actually provide you with a solution that could potentially be rock solid if you do it right. So this is just a couple of kind of things that I put down as some of the at least some of the things and the choices that customers have to make. And there's different people in the business, and each person in the business has a different objective. At the end of the day, this stuff costs a lot of money. It's not cheap. So you have to be very, very conscious about what you purchase and how you put it together to get the benefit. So at the end of the day, it's a solution. It's not just about storage. You've got to make sure that you have those pieces of the puzzle all put together and they all work together and they're all certified together and make sure this thing works. Not only that, it gives you the ability to move stuff around when you need to. You know, you've got different parts of the business requiring more servers. They want to do a backup at night time. They might want to do a report at the end of the month. There's different business requirements for those types of times of the period. So you need to have everything that works together. Servers, the storage, virtual storage, and enterprise, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, and integration. And VAI has been, I believe, is the next transformation in the data center, and is actually quite, my view, is it's the next ticket towards going back into a mainframe environment. And where has Hitashi's specialty been? It's been in that space. People have bought us specifically to have high availability, to have high enterprise class workloads, and to make sure things stay up. Banks, airlines, stock markets, defense. This is the category that we've played in, and this is why people have bought the storage. So now what's happening in the space, specifically is VMware has now become a very mature product, and with the integration with VAI, has now moved this whole revolution back into an enterprise-class workload. For people who run Hitachi storage, they've generally come from that space, or people who have known the requirements with mainframe do understand that requirement. So this is quite a different way of thinking about it. So what are the benefits for VMware? So this is what I did. I said vMotion provisioning deployment without headaches or storage admins. So I think that's pretty funny, because the main reason that is happening in the marketplace, why some of this integration is happening, is because you've got the storage admin versus the vSphere admin. And I've been there. You keep going and asking the guy for more storage, and he whinges and complains, and it says it takes him a long time. Wouldn't it be better just to have a pool of disk that has an unlimited IOPS, or gives you that tiered storage approach, and that vSphere admin can vMotion whenever he wants. He can then do a tiered migration whenever he wants. He can deploy new servers whenever he wants. And that storage just takes care of itself. Second, CapEx and OpEx. It's expensive. So make sure that it's available and it's on demand, and it's got a very, very cost-effective approach to it. Most people over-provision disk. They don't know how to size it properly. So they go on, they'll give it a massive watt of disk, and it's expensive. They might say, oh, I need this highly available. So they'll go on, they provision 0.5 terabyte of tier 1 disk, and they're only using 50% of it. Remember, before VAI, specifically, it was challenging because you had SCSI reserves. So you had to limit how many virtual machines that you had on a particular LDEV or a particular data store in order to balance that SCSI reserve component. Because of VAI integration, now that's being removed completely. So you now don't have that limitation. So what does that give you? It gives you a possibility of having a large LUN. And we have proven it. And we've proven it today in our modular arrays. Secondly, having one point of management, having one point of control with your storage infrastructure, being able to replicate heterogeneous storage, external storage, give yourself tiers of disk that is in block. The stuff that works, the stuff that gives you that availability. So here's just an example of a combination between using the VMware tool of vMotion, right, to be able to move machines completely non-disruptively between servers. The second part here is using tiered storage manager with external storage. Now you can do this with up to over 80 competitive arrays. Makes no difference. It's just a single point of control for block level management. Now consider this. You guys have 100 servers sitting on a LUN, right? That particular LUN is completely overloaded, right? The IOPS are through the roof, the cache on the controller's going out. If you don't have the ability to move stuff quickly and react to that business problem, you could potentially have a massive impact on your hands. So this gives you the conceptual change. It's a different way of thinking to react to business problems, and not only that, be proactive. But I'm talking about here in block. I'm talking about here within the array. Let the hardware do all the work. Don't go and put more software or write some program or go buy some plugin or do something within the server virtualized environment. Let the hardware do all the work. Offload everything into the array. So things specifically that relate to reacting to data mobility at a block level. Single point of management, right? Use the software that manages the hardware. Use the software that manages those volumes, manages the workload, moves things around, gives you that ability. Use that to be able to move that around in the array and have a single point of control. Yes?
How is this any different than what the other storage vendors provide? NetApp or EMC? It seems all the same.
So Hitashi's virtualized storage is the oldest and still the most leading type of technology, and I'll tell you why. We actually externalize in the controller. So there's no device, there's no appliance, there's no software that sits in between the external storage and the enterprise class storage. It's a massive high-end switch. So these boxes actually get virtualized in behind these enterprise class controllers, and then you get all the features and benefits from the external array for those external storage arrays. So everything from block-based level replication, Hitachi dynamic provisioning, which is hardware-thin provisioning in the volume with wide striping, your active-active controller with the load balancing between the controllers. It's all built into hardware. So the cache algorithms, everything that those external storage arrays is actually externalized in between the switch and the external storage. So what does that do for you? It minimizes complexity. You don't have to worry about another piece of software. You don't have to worry about something going wrong within the fabric. That's the clever part about it. So we have, I think, 15 or 16,000 boxes out there that have external capability, right? And a lot of the enterprise guys are using it, the big customers, mainly because it gives you that block level replication. It also helps you migrate as well. So if you have a heap of arrays that are in your environment, you can then externalize. Sorry? Wait to the end. No problem. Does that answer your question? Well, all I can say is it's probably I'm going to say it's the best kept secret in storage, I suppose. We're not a big marketing company, so a lot of people don't know about us, so we're trying to help people understand exactly what the capabilities of the boxes are so that people understand that the choice that they have tries to minimize risk. And we understand with enterprise class workloads that most people are trying to keep this stuff up. It comes back to availability. So here's just an example of 100 servers running on a VMFS Eager0 thick volume when we're migrating it from a tier 1 to tier 2. So this is just a real-life example. So basically what you're seeing is a flat line hitting 10 minutes 49, and then basically doing a migration, and it's all block level. This is using the technology which is UVM. Blocks are copied across, they're cached within the subsystem and then committed, and then dropped into a tier 2. So as you can see, no downtime to the host. You've got 100 servers up and running, and the impact is fairly minimal. So it's just an example of things that people do now to move between tiers. Now, when you have a lot of virtual machines and there's heavy I/O happening, you'll want something that actually is reliable to move to do that block level replication. And this is just the key message: is do it without the ESX host worrying about what's in underneath. Second component of this puzzle is around HDP, which is your dynamic provisioning, right? Dynamic provisioning from HDS or Hitachi is primarily in the hardware. So you wide stripe your hard drives with one dynamic pool, and the way it allocates the pages and blocks is done within hardware. So we've benchmarked just recently a whole bunch of performance I/O characterization with HDP volumes. It's up on our website. We did that with VMware engineering, with the performance team, because it's something that people don't have. So we spent 6 months in the lab going through this process with the different file formats that VMFS have to give the best component, the best kind of configuration. So if you go up to our website, you will find those white papers there, but they're all fairly performance driven, and it actually shows you how to lay out the best layout for whatever thing you're actually doing. So it's something a little bit different. The other thing that HDP does is it actually gives you back disk. So this is an existing VMware customer that we took data from. So this customer had 106 volumes in their environment, 200 to 500 gig drive size. They had a mix of capacity utilization with 25 terabyte. When you move to a HDP pool, it's a dynamic provisioning hardware thin provision volume. So what you're able to do is the way the algorithms and everything is done on the box, you can then migrate to this and then save on disk space and then save on how many RAID groups you have. So what you're actually doing is you're actually saving space, and then you do what they call storage reclamation. So this is just an example that these guys actually reclaimed 6 terabytes when they moved their whole VMware environment from a standalone RAID group with a standalone LDEV into a HDP volume. Here's just another example: 109 volumes, 54 terabyte, down to 24 and 29 terabyte. So this is coming back to people over provisioning to think, because they think that they need to dedicate that much disk for the environment. When you go to a HDP pool, you can then have that so that you can minimize your cost and then have basically volumes or disk on demand that's in hardware in a storage pool. This is just another example of a financial institution. So see where I'm coming from here? It's big, high-end, high availability institutions that are seeing some of the benefits with VMware as they're moving more production workloads into this environment.
So do you have to, with your disk or your array, do you have to have an equal amount of space to support the initial portion of the migration, or does that get handled so that you can estimate a smaller disk size and actually restrict it?
That's absolutely correct. You can over-provision, you can create a pool of disk, and then you can over-provision. So my apologies. So the question was, is it possible if you can over-provision disk from the pool to a specific host? So you can just give them a portion, provision like 100 terabyte, but actually in the pool there's only like 10 terabyte that it's using. And then as it needs to write blocks or write the pages to the disk, it will just use from the pool when it needs to. So you can then, say, over-provision, say, a petabyte of disk, right, and to all those hosts, but technically you might only have half a petabyte. And then as it uses, it will pull from that pool. Now, the key component is that what you're actually doing is there's alerts and there's cache things that will give you, so you need to monitor that pool, right? So you need to monitor it. The advantages of doing this is you can reclaim space, right? So you can run space reclamation on the storage array, on those pools, because when you delete something, some file systems will not reclaim space, right? So you write all the blocks to the disk, and it uses all the blocks, but actually won't reclaim space. So we have a space reclamation tab in our storage array. You click that, and then it will go and write zeros to all that volume because everything's been deleted, and it will reclaim the space. It's done at the storage level. Yeah, so the OS is the problem, you could say. So the OS will write zeros and ones to the disk, all the blocks on the disk. But underneath, unless you've got a space reclamation component to that operating system, it will just keep it there until the storage array can go back, until you go back in the storage array and then write zeros to the entire block for that one that's been deleted. So you don't know, that's the thing. It's like I suppose it's like a little bit like on Windows you do a kind of a defrag kind of component, right? So over time you'll write something and then delete it, write something, delete it, but it doesn't actually defrag your disk. Correct. Yeah, correct. Zeroing out the information that's already been deleted. Correct. Not necessarily, depending on what operating system it is. Yeah, so logical volume, if it's Linux, you don't have to. Windows, you would have to. Right. Yes?
Two questions for you. You mentioned the 2 terabyte conditional SCSI 2 limit and SCSI reserve on your LUT number 1.
Yep.
And
I'll answer the first question. Okay, so recently VMware just recently announced VAI, vStorage API for Array Integration. There was only a very small number of storage partners that were part of that program. They announced it in 2008 at VMworld, And finally, on July 13th, they then formally announced that as a supported technology with those vendors who were part of the program. It took over 2 years to develop. Why? Because this particular technology improvement or the technology change, you had to write it into microcode. You had to build SCSI commands that were coming from ESX kernel that talk to the array so that you actually can understand what it's trying to do. And let me explain. You've got storage xcopy, right? So you're actually doing a block xcopy within the subsystem. Before, it used to do a copy at the host level. So when you're trying to do a storage vMotion, it will go across the network. So now it offloads it to the disk. So that's one feature. The second feature was write same. So write same was a specific command that what actually did is when you, specific to storage reclamation, you actually, when it was writing or cloning something, it wouldn't write zeros to the disk. It would just write ones. Now it does a 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. And what that will actually do, it speeds up the process. It's a lot quicker. Third process is called hardware-assisted offload unlocking. What this means is in ESX, when you had multiple servers accessing the same volume, right, you had what they call locking. So it used to lock the entire LUN. So if for a specific I/O or a specific write or a specific command, anything, it would lock the LUN. So at that time, when the LUN's locked, another server couldn't access that same volume at the same time. So this is where you got SCSI reserve. So big enterprise customers who had lots of ESX hosts had to segregate their workload at the storage array. So it was quite complex. So you actually had to segregate all these particular workloads. Yes?
So you didn't talk about the size issue around LUN, and does your experience NFS have a similar LUN locking issue?
There's a bit of, so let me explain. It's a very, very interesting question, and I've had a lot of questions around this. Talked about NFS. So in my opinion, a lot of people went to NFS because of the ease of management. And they went to NFS specifically because of the limitations in block and specifically around SCSI reserves. Because you had to segregate your workloads at a block level LUN so that you could minimize your SCSI reserve or minimize problems. Because as soon as you got a SCSI reserve error, you would actually have failures or those hosts. So that was the limitation, right? It's a technology improvement. It was something that ESX did, and the storage arrays copped the shit for it. So basically, what has happened now is that because that's been removed, what you can do now is create a large LUN, right? And you can give that to 100 hosts.
Well, actually, SCSI 2 has a 2 terabyte limit, hard-coded in 32-bit words, and you can't do it with 4-bit words. Is that being done?
Yeah, it's in the futures. Absolutely. It's still 2 terabyte limit. And that's a VMware limitation, right? Because it's a ESX kernel, Linux, 2 terabyte. But yeah, there are talks now, because it's step-by-step first, right? First step is fix the SCSI locking. So ESX had to do that, right? The storage arrays then had to build in an adapter to accept that SCSI command. So then you remove that problem. So that problem's gone away now with VAI. That's why it's such a technology transformation. And that's why Hitachi specifically are on board with this, because now this product's now becoming into a much more maturity state that you can now move into an enterprise class workload. And actually you can move production-based workloads now onto this hypervisor, and you just need to make sure the array is suitable for that particular workload. So before, people were juggling, right? They were going, do I virtualize? Do I not virtualize? I've got this limitation. It's hard to manage. Oh, okay, medium enterprise stuff, I'll go NFS. It's easy. But NFS doesn't scale, right? So if you really, really, really want to scale and you really want a high availability, go block.
So with the 2 terabyte limit, how does your storage provide that performance overall?
It's the combination of wide striping with HDP. So So without going into too much detail, the HDP pooling that we have, the technology that we have in our storage arrays is called Hitachi Dynamic Provisioning. So that's hardware thin provisioning within the array across multiple RAID groups. So you create a pool of storage on block, right? So your RAID groups are all block storage, and it's in this hardware thin provision pool. It's not software, it's in microcode. So you can create that pool, which gives you the high performance because it's like across many, many spindles, right? And then that immediately gives you the performance within the array. Let the array do all the work with the I/O. So spread it across multiple disks. Let the algorithms in the array do all the work and spread the workload across controllers and across RAID groups. And that's all the high-O applications.
So you're saying that you don't have to create the little slices and put them together?
Correct. You don't have to do that anymore.
But are the pools RAID specific?
Are the pools? Yeah, it's all... at the moment, yes. Yes, at the moment. That's right. So pool everything on block. Go down that path. Sorry, we've got one person at the back first, and I'll come back. Yes?
Is it possible that VM engineers don't know about VMware?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's our job as storage vendors to work with those solution integrators and those people who are VMware administrators to explain to them that now the storage subsystem is, with the changes and the improvements with VMware and the storage vendors together, because you had to work together in cooperation to build the integration to remove some of these contention issues. Now, because remember, this only started July 13th, VMware only announced it. Hitachi was the first vendor out of all of the vendors at GA to release it on our modular box. Yeah, July this year, July 13. The other vendors now are all coming to fruition, and we'll have Enterprise, which will be early next year. But now it's just starting to evolve, because remember, you couldn't talk about this before July 13th. This has been in our factory in Japan and going through all the process with VMware and the certification to get this working. So now it's finished and it's out. We've done all the lab testing, we've put all that together, and now it's something that we can actually tell people that it works and that it's right to go. No, it's across all, I think it's about 5 or 6 storage vendors that have been part of the program. Yeah. So it's a big revolution and change to the environment. Right. Yeah, and this has been the fundamental problem. That's why a lot of people went NFS, so they didn't, because it was easier. So now the block storage can start to scale. Yeah, I might just take some questions. I don't know how long I've got left of my presentation. About 5 minutes. What I might do, guys, is if I just scream through this next lot, get some of the stuff, and then I can take questions at the end and pull some more. And I'm happy to stay here and take some stuff if you like. So just coming back to replication. So replication fundamentally in enterprise class application is mandatory. So basically, if you move into an enterprise class environment and you want to start consolidating all those particular virtual machines on very large volumes, say if you've got 2 terabyte volumes, you're squeezing high density workloads, high density virtual machines, you want to have DR. So we integrate with Hitachi Universal Replicator, and TC is part of the SRA adapter that you can download from VMware to use SRM with SRA. So that's a solution for enterprise class. Replication, remember, is something that is very, very important, specifically if you are having an application that really wants consistency for a DR solution. So if you've got banks or airlines or those types of things, you really want the consistency there with the data for disaster recovery. So We are already been in this space. We've been in it a long time, many years. We have lots of big customers replicating from one side of the world to the other. So in a VMware environment, people now can be quite confident that if they move into high density, high workloads, they can use this type of technology to provide their self peace of mind. It also works with external storage. So if you've got other arrays in your environment, they're sitting around, your storage admin left and he was an IBM certified storage guy, he's gone, you can't replace him. There's an option here that you can virtualize that array in between the enterprise class box and then use one replication software and just keep that running until it runs out of warranty and then you can pull it out. A lot of people do that. It just gives you a choice. Not here to take over the world, it just gives you the capability so that you can do stuff. Right? Simplify your management. Let the hardware do all the work. Don't go and put more stuff in on top. Keep everything in the hardware, so let everything work simultaneously. We provide management software for performance and capacity reporting. It's called Tuning Manager and Hitachi Storage Command Portal. We both have VMware plugins for those particular pieces of software. So you can correlate the difference between the storage resource, the LDEV, the data store, and what virtual machines are sitting on that particular thing. We did the reverse. We didn't do it from the vCenter down. We did it from the bottom up, because you want to react to the problem and move stuff quickly if you want to use tiered storage. So we focused on that area. We have an area that is our GSS. They are known for hardcore migrations and transformation. These guys have launched a service recently specifically to virtualize high-end workload environments and to set up that disaster recovery solution and to size that RAID group accordingly with our sizing tools for high I/O workloads specifically for VMware. We've been doing this stuff in enterprise. Now we're bringing it back into this server virtualization space so that we can use that same level of competency that we've done with high-end applications with the virtual machine environment. This is just some testimonials. We have some large customers. A lot of people have done a lot with HDP and done a lot with some of their consolidation. So I think all I'm saying is that we provide choice for enterprise environments. We're at booth 301. We have some really cool demos down there. There's HDP, there's VAI stuff. We talk about some of the solutions that we've put together. It was just a matter of getting all the pieces of the puzzle, putting them together to make sure that VMware works perfectly on that environment and gives you that choice. That was really what we've done in the last 12 months, right? Specifically around VMware. We've identified VMware is now moving into this enterprise workload space. And we see as a company that using our traditional proven technology with the capabilities we have with our existing customers, and we're seeing a lot of the big customers starting to move in this space. With VAI, it's removed that problem. And now you can actually move into that area. So that's it from today. We have a raffle. So I think we have a flat screen TV to give away. So do we have a box with all the tickets? Yeah, okay. So I'll just grab that. And we'll get Neil. I don't know, Neil, you want to be the lucky man to put your hand in the pot?
So, the lucky winner is ticket number 637858.